2 weeks ago, I visited the Sahel region of Africa, where I met families who do not know where their next meal is coming from. Severe acute malnutrition, a wasting disease that can kill if left untreated, is rising. Farm animals are already dying of hunger. Leaders told me that because of the war in Ukraine, on top of the other crises they face, they fear this dangerous situation could tip into catastrophe. They are not alone. Global hunger levels are at a new high. In just 2 years, the number of severely food insecure people has doubled.
Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Welcome to Veracity. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. In April 2022, the World Bank warned of an upcoming food crisis after witnessing a 37% increase in food prices since the Russia-Ukraine war. The same was also reported by us when we talked about the threat of fertilizer shortage. And now in the June 7th report, the United Nations has officially declared that the extreme food insecurity is about to hit 20 nations in the upcoming months. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO, and the United Nations World Food Program, WFP, by September 2022, around 49 million people in 46 countries throughout the world could face famine or famine-like conditions. The data also includes around 750,000 people defined as already experiencing extreme critical levels of acute malnutrition and mortality from this painful disaster. By dividing countries on the basis of level of danger, the UN organization said Ethiopia, Nigeria, South Sudan, and Yemen are on the highest alert level of acute food insecurity. And after the Afghan war, Afghanistan and Somalia have also joined this list. Furthermore, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Haiti, the Sahel, Sudan, Syria, and Kenya remain countries of very high concern. Not to forget Sri Lanka, West African coastal countries, Ukraine, Zimbabwe, and Madagascar are falling under the hotspot list, where possibility of acute food security could increase in the coming months. As Russia and Ukraine are the major producers of wheat and corn worldwide, the experts of the United Nations have argued that not only did the Russia-Ukraine war cause this crisis, but also other factors like droughts, flooding, and hurricanes are also adding to the situation. The Director General of FAO, Q Dong-yu, said, "We are deeply concerned about the combined impacts of overlapping crises, jeopardizing people's ability to produce and access foods, pushing millions more into extreme levels of acute food insecurity. We are in a race against time to help farmers in the most affected countries, including by rapidly increasing potential food production and boosting their resilience in the face of challenges."
There were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did, and I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out.
All right, despite the mountain of evidence against Sussman, prosecutors still face an uphill battle, in part because of the Clinton donors in the jury pool.
Is that FBI management, senior management at that time, didn't want the field investigators to know that the information came from a Hillary Clinton campaign attorney. Otherwise, the agents rightly would have questioned why they're conducting an investigation in this regard when it's plainly coming from an opposition party. So I think that piece of information, which was actually brought forward by the prosecution in their case, it could be enough to raise questions in the jury's mind. Now, if they evaluate based on the four corners of the evidence, he should be found guilty.
In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Now, the author of this statement is George Orwell, who wrote the book 1984. Orwell's thoughts and ideas in the 20th century stand true even more so in the 21st century, as they can be perfectly applied to the Sussman case. Because after being acquitted with a deceitful smile on his face, 10 astonishing and significant facts from the trial have come forward which shows how corrupt the leading agencies as well as the judicial system who intentionally ignore these facts have become. Now, before we expose these 10 facts, I want to thank everyone who has donated to the show by becoming a member on Locals. Your contribution is greatly appreciated. And if you want to become a member of the Locals community and help contribute to the show, then click on the link in the description and become a member and help me on my mission to deliver truthful news. Okay, let's go through the 10 facts that were overlooked during the Sussman trial. Number 1, James Baker, the FBI lawyer who initiated the fake investigation against Trump on the basis of data given by Sussman on September 19, 2016, was actually doing a favor for Sussman in return for landing a job at the law firm where Sussman was already working. Baker was planning to leave the FBI, which he did on September 29, 2018, but before leaving, Sussman arranged several interviews for Baker at his Perkins Coie law firm, which later rejected him. Number 2, FBI Director James Comey was eager to initiate an investigation against Trump despite not verifying the sources of the information. The same is confirmed by FBI agents Allison Sands and Curtis Hyde, who was in charge of the investigation when they said that instead of allowing them to identify the source of the information, the top leaders of FBI directed them to focus on the technical analysis. Number 3, Robbie Mook, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, accepted on the stand that the Trump and Russia allegations were intentionally promoted through the media after obtaining consent from Hillary. Number 4, why did the FBI take months to close the investigation when the FBI declared the allegations from Sussman as false within a day? The complete investigation against Trump began on September 23, 2016, which is just a few days after Sussman shared the false data on September 19, 2016. The FBI also consulted entities like Central Dynamics, which also arrived at the same conclusion as the FBI on October 5, 2016. However, the investigation was not closed until January 18, 2017, after CNN reported that the investigation was still ongoing. Number 5, apart from giving false information against Trump to the FBI, Sussman also gave the same information to Rodney Joffe, a leading cybersecurity expert, who helped the FBI in significant matters and also was recommended for an FBI award in 2013. Furthermore, the data that Sussman gave to the FBI against Trump was illegally obtained through Joffe's help when he hacked into non-public data of Trump's apartment in New York and in the White House. However, to ensure no suspicious case arose against him, this leading expert was quickly terminated by the FBI after investigation against Sussman started ramping up in 2021. The data on which Sussman relied on and shared with the FBI was actually created by April Lorenzen, a cyber expert and a business associate of the controversial Rodney Joffe. To establish that the data given by Sussman to the FBI looked original, Lorenzen created a fake profile on the internet by the name of Tea Leaves and posted the information moments after Sussman met with FBI lawyer James Baker. Surprisingly, during cross-examination, FBI agent Ryan Gaynor, who monitored the investigation into Trump-Russia's claims, accepted that nobody tried to verify the profile that posted this information under a fake name. Number 7, after directing Sussman to go to the FBI with fake claims against Trump, Joffe separately approached another FBI agent named Tom Grasso so that the FBI would be convinced enough to initiate investigation by showing them 2 streams of information. Clinton campaign lawyer Mark Elias and Debbie Fine met regularly with Fusion GPS, the firm that compiled the infamous anti-Trump dossier with the help of former British spy Christopher Steele. However, on the stand, Debbie said she communicated with Fusion operatives several times a week. Astonishing, the document titled Daily Check-In showed that Mark, Debbie, and Fusion GPS co-founders met every weekday for 30 minutes from June 6 until October 31st, 2016. Number 9, there were serious errors in the documents. The document said there was a preliminary inquiry instead of a full investigation. However, FBI agent Curtis Hyde referred to it as a serious typo problem. Number 10, Special Counsel John Durham's team is still trying to locate the origins of the information that convinced the FBI to initiate a fake investigation against Trump and Russia relations.
Elon Musk filed a document with securities regulators where he essentially reiterated his discomfort with this fact, this idea that Twitter is not providing him the information he's requesting about how many so-called fake and or automated and or bot accounts are currently active on the social media platform. So in that filing,
billionaire Elon Musk is once again threatening to end his deal to buy Twitter, saying the social media giant is withholding information about spam and fake accounts.
As each day passes towards Musk finalizing the Twitter deal, the real truth behind Twitter keeps being uncovered and revealed to us every day. In May 2022, Musk, along with his team, directed the Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal to allow his team to analyze the number of fake accounts existing on Twitter's platform. However, to ensure people don't feel surprised with the number of actual fake accounts existing on the platform, Parag somehow tried to give Musk and his teams excuses that non-public information would be required to obtain accurate count. Surprisingly, instead of providing the complete data on fake accounts, Twitter's team is trying its best to ignore this request every day. This unacceptable action from the company has now forced Musk to issue a stark warning to the Twitter board that he will cancel the entire Twitter deal if all the data is not provided to him. Musk recently also accused the company of resisting and thwarting his ability to obtain information about the bot accounts, which is a direct breach of their merger agreement. Musk, who in April announced that he would buy Twitter for $44 billion, has now sent a warning letter to the company on June 6 by stating, Mr. Musk believes Twitter is transparently refusing to comply with the obligations under the merger agreement, which is causing further suspicion that the company is withholding the requested data due to the concerns from what Mr. Musk's own analysis of that data will uncover. Mr. Musk reserves all rights resulting therefrom, including his right not to consummate the transaction and his right to terminate the merger agreement. However, some analysts are claiming that Elon Musk is trying to exit the Twitter deal by using this fake bot issue as an excuse.
It's pretty hard to believe. 3 Wisconsin middle school boys are being accused of sexual harassment. So what are the specific charges? Using the wrong pronouns, I kid you not.
A Wisconsin school district recently landed in a serious controversy after they initiated sexual harassment investigation against 3 innocent 8th grade boys for calling another student by their biological pronouns and not their preferred pronouns. This became an issue after the public school district earlier this year issued directions that once a student informs others of new preferred pronouns, any subsequent mispronouncing will constitute sexual harassment under Title IX. Title IX is the federal law that bans sex-based discrimination in education programs that receive federal funding. Now, this usually involves cases involving allegations of sexual misconduct such as rape, stalking, inappropriate touching, or quid pro quo involving sexual favors. Feeling infuriated by the inhumane policy of the school district, the parents of the boys filed a case with the help of the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty. Here's what the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty had to say. The use of biological correct pronouns is not sexual harassment under Title IX and is also speech protected by the First Amendment. We do not believe that any part of Title IX applies here. While claiming pronoun preference imposed by the district confused her son, Rose Rabideau, a parent of one of the boys, argued, "It's plural. It doesn't make sense to him. So I told him to call them by their names." After the issue grabbed attention in the mainstream media, the school district decided to close this matter by modifying and clarifying their policies. Although the parents of the boys welcomed this decision, what about those parents who cannot afford or are afraid of initiating legal proceedings against the school where their child studies every day?
At one point, Janet Yellen was asked, because it's a pretty obvious question, how exactly, as the Treasury Secretary and former Fed chair, as an economist and a genius, how'd you miss the inflation you caused? Here it went.
I said that inflation would be transitory. What I was not anticipating was a scenario in which we would end up contending with multiple variants of COVID that would be scrambling our economy and global supply chains, and I was not envisioning impacts on food and energy prices we've seen from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So, as Chair Powell indicated himself, both of us probably could have used a better term than transitory. I do expect inflation to remain high, although I very much hope that it will be coming down now.
Inflation remains at a 40-year high. Food prices jumped 9.4%. Used cars and trucks went up by 22.7%, and shelter costs have touched the highest level since May 1991. However, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, during a hearing on Tuesday in front of the Senate Finance Committee, argued that the Biden administration has done everything they can to reduce these prices. Furthermore, she went ahead to say that although inflation is at an unacceptable level, she expects inflation to remain higher. Now, it should be noted that on May 31st, Yellen openly admitted that, "I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I didn't at that time fully understand, but we recognize that now." However, despite knowing what she openly said and admitted in public, Yellen defended Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, the ARP, by claiming it did not play any significant role in causing the inflation at such an enormous level. While replying to Senator Steve Daines' question, she proudly said, "We are seeing high inflation in almost all developed countries around the world. They have very different fiscal policies, so it can't be the case that the bulk of the inflation that we are experiencing reflects the impact of the ARP." Now, if you look at her May 31st statement when she said, "Supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I didn't at that time fully understand, but we recognize that now," the same is argued by leading economists about how the combination of supply chain issues and excessive government spending would cause inflation. Moreover, senior economist Jackie Benson at the United States Congress Joint Economic Committee, held in October 2021, said, "Compounding the pressures of constrained supply, increases in household income from government stimulus measures may have ignited more lasting demand-driven inflation. If Congress continues to enact new government spending that further increases consumer demand while supply remains constrained, inflation could become worse." Thank you all for spending time with me. Now don't forget, watch this video right up here and join me tomorrow at the same time, and we'll discuss more truths happening in America. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time.